Hey podcaster, I'm Tim Walbert, your podcast performance coach with another actionable tip so you can sound like a pro and gain more podcast fans. Today's tip, tell us about yourself, is not a question. I know you've heard this phrase before, and I know you've heard very popular podcasters use it before. Some do it every show. I can tell you with absolute certainty that tell us about yourself is not a question. I don't care if you just plop a question mark behind those words and say, tell us about yourself. It's still not a question. Never say something like this to your podcast guest. You instantly relinquish control and give your guest the power to decide what's relevant. I'll tell you about myself. Well, how far do I go back? Well, I'm a Sagittarius. I like movies, peeling potatoes, and long walks off short piers. I was born... And that's if they're outgoing. Many people don't feel comfortable talking about themselves without any context. Take care of your guest. Using this non-question is not only insulting to your guest, but also to your listener. You're telling them that you don't give a damn about your guest, that they're not worth a proper introduction, that they're not worth putting in any time. And if you don't care about your guest, why the hell should your listener? Here's a truth bomb for you. If you don't think your guest is worth the time to do any research on, don't have them on your show. Find someone else, because you might as well just do this. Welcome.
Hi.
Who's this?
Veronica Bell.
Keep going.
From Brockton University.
And?
I guess we're here to talk about my book.
Mm-hmm.
So I could just read a few chapters if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Here, acknowledgements. I'd like to thank Professor Stanfield.
Stop being so lazy. Introducing your guest is your job, not your guest's job. Here's what you can do. Your homework. And it really doesn't take much. I'm sure with a little digging, within 5 minutes, you can find one tidbit about your guest. You might even find it on their Facebook page. Imagine a podcast that interviews entrepreneurs, starting with, tell us about yourself, versus that same podcast starting with a proper introduction and a question like, how hard was it to sell socks door to door at age 12? First, your guest may laugh out loud. Second, he or she will instantly respect the work and interest you put into them. And your listener, remember your listener? They'll instantly be drawn in and have an immediate connection. They'll likely start picturing the guest or themselves carrying a box of colorful socks, ringing doorbell after doorbell, in the rain, fighting off dogs, counting their pennies, just trying to make a buck. I can almost guarantee by starting with tell us about yourself, you'd never have gotten that story from your guest or the reaction and engagement from your audience. There will be plenty of opportunities to get other details along the way. Let me say this again. Don't be lazy. There are hundreds of better ways to start your interview than with tell us about yourself. Like, why did you write this book? What motivates you to build houses for the homeless? What's the longest you've ever gone without checking Facebook? How did having a child change your business? How many employees do you now have working for you? After a proper guest introduction, get to the heart of the matter. Get to what your listener came for with your first question. And speaking of introducing your guest, stay tuned because I'll do an upcoming podcast on how to do a proper guest intro. In the meantime, stop using the phrase, tell us about yourself, do your homework, lead with a real question, and you'll start sounding more like a pro in no time. And I hope that's just the tip you need. Oh, you want me to tell you about myself? I do podcast coaching. Well, what does it entail? I listen to your podcast. I put it through my 40-point checklist and tell you the areas of your podcast that need work and give you the tools to make you have a better podcast. No, that's not all. Then we go through it all together with a 30-minute Skype session. Yeah, it does sound pretty cool. Yeah, well, all they have to do to book their coaching session is visit podcastperformancecoach.com. I'm Tim Walbert. See ya!